So verse 35, and there what we saw, there was questions that Arjuna had, and we said, Krishna said, how is it? So Arjuna had this doubt, how is it possible? You're saying you do dhyana, you do meditation, you bring your mind to a focus. The mind is like a storm. You bring your mind to a certain calm, all of that. Now, the for that question, Bhagavan says, Asamshayam Mahabaho Mano Durnigraham Chalam. Do not doubt this, O Mahabaho. Abhyasena Vairagyena. By these two, by Abhyasa and Vairagya, by essentially practicing constantly and consistently, and by Vairagya. Vairagya means by having this determination, sankalpa, that I want to get to this understanding, get to the state of equanimity, get to the state of yoga. With this sankalpa, you make a vairagya. Vairagyena and abhyasena. By these two, it is possible to obtain it. Grihyate. You can obtain it. It is not impossible. Then the conversation further goes. He says, asanyatatmana yoga dushprapa iti me matah. In my opinion, Arjuna, in my opinion. See, this is also a very interesting thing, right? In many places, you'll notice Krishna emphatically saying that I say, you have to fall at my feet. You have to sarvadharman parityaj. Towards the end, he says that there are many places he says, you have to come to me. The one who loves me, one who's never lost to me, or one who never loses sight of me is never lost to me. So he says all this with so much emphasis, saying that I am your final refuge. But here suddenly he's saying it is my opinion that if the mind is not disturbed, or if the mind is disturbed, asanyatatmana, which means the mind that is constantly chanchala, it is disturbed, it is very difficult for that kind of a mind. But a mind that is, you are able to regulate a mind, for that, shakyam, it is possible. It is possible to achieve that. Avaptum upayatah. By the right means, it is achievable. It is achievable. So here suddenly is bringing in this next few verses, you will see that he mentions this me mataha, me matihi, my, according to me, in my opinion. He'll say this a couple of times. It also shows that you'll notice this. There are times when you need emphasis to tell a person who is come to you for refuge, to tell him follow this. But sometimes when you notice the person is asking a lot of intellectual questions, then you want him or her, that person, to experience and explore it on their own. So at that time, you will try to keep the emphasis low and you will say, in my opinion, in my experience, in my understanding, depending, based on what my guru told me, you'll use these things to say that there is room for you to explore. This is very important in a teaching also. When a guru like Krishna is teaching, he's also showing how the teaching should be also. The teacher should also be approaching the disciple. You have to take various ways of teaching. One needs to take various ways of approaching the same topic, the same subject. There are times when you see that the student is very confused. Then he said, don't worry, trust me, listen to me. Just follow this. I'm telling you, do it. That's one approach, depending on the disciples or the student's state of mind. There are times when you see the student is very analytical. He's trying to analyze and saying, why is this wrong? Why do you say this is wrong? Why shouldn't it be this way? How do you think this can be achieved? So he becomes very analytical, and you'll see a lot of kids and teenagers, kids nowadays they'll ask questions like this. Why is this wrong? Why should it be like this only? Why should I follow this? So when you notice that kind of a mind that is approaching you with a question, at that time you try and say that, you know, I've tried this. This is what I think works. This is the way it is, in my opinion, in my experience. If you want to find out, you can find out for yourself. So that is the approach now Krishna is taking with Arjuna in some of these shlokas, in some of these verses, because now Arjuna is trying to give him he's trying to analyze and analytically pose questions, intelligent questions. That's what he's trying to do. So you're saying asanyatatmana yoga dushprapayati me mati. In my opinion, if the mind is disturbed, remains chanchala, it's difficult to grasp it. But if the mind is stationed and it is in your regulated, in your realm of regulation, your control, in your uh, in you can decide where the mind should go. When you have that much control on your mind, for such a mind, this is possible, this is achievable. The state that I'm talking about of yoga, of complete steadfastness, or the nischala tattvam, that is possible, he's saying. Shakyah avaptum, shakyah avaptum upayatah. By the right means, it's possible, O Arjuna. The next one he says, then Arjuna again comes and asks a question. So what he's doing, when he says, in my opinion, it is like this, then he's actually opening up. Whenever you tell this to somebody, right? எனக்கு தெரிஞ்ச அளவுக்குப்பா அப்படின்னு சொன்னா அடுத்த கேள்வி வரும். Usually the next question will come, because then, oh, maybe there is another way out. Maybe there is something else to it. So now he's asking very interesting questions now. Arjuna is saying, ayati shraddhayopetah yoga chalitamanasaha aprapya yoga samsiddhim kam gatim krishna gacchati. So one who he's saying now, you're telling me do this, do that. But one who does this and fails at the end of it, does not achieve, by the end of life, does not achieve the goal or a steady mind, what will happen to such a person? Where will he go? Right? You take a lot of effort. You do this puja, you do this ritual, you do this yoga, you do this dhyana, you go to this Swamiji, you go to that guru, you do this tantra, you do this mantra, everything you do. But still after 50, 60, 70, 80 years, you find that your mind, you're not able to control. Or you're not able to be in that state of equanimity within. What happens to such a person? Where will he go, O Krishna? He's saying, what is the fate of an unsuccessful yogi? Yogi bhrashtaha, yoga bhrashtaha. Such a person is called a yoga bhrashta, one who's fallen in his yoga, which means he's not able to all the time maintain that. Not everybody can takkanokanda, you can go into a state of samadhi. And even after many years of practice, may not be possible. And even those who are able to get to a state of samadhi after many years of practice, when they come out of their meditation, again they are in the normal world, they are not able to retain it. And even if they are able to retain it, it's probably retained for a little while. The moment there is some external interaction, stimulus, they'll get disturbed. Then it will cause again some level of frustration and irritation. How much ever I do, I'm not able to maintain that calmness. And then you start justifying why you're okay to not be calm. All of this will happen. We will justify ourselves saying that, it's okay not to be calm. He deserves it. We'll put the blame on the other person. We'll say, I am disturbed today is because of this reason, because of that person, because of that person. I am living in such an environment. What can I do? So all of this will happen. So Arjuna is saying, what happens to such people who fall off from that, or do, but still don't get to that state? Then He also continues to say that such a person, kachinno bhaya vibhrashtah chinnabhram iva nashyati apratishto mahabaho vimudho brahmanah pati, which means such a person does not get the spiritual wealth, nor does he get the material wealth. Because such a person, he is, because throughout his life, he has tried to follow the scriptures, follow a guru, follow a teacher, follow a teaching. He's tried to do that, which means he's abstained from enjoying. And then he has not achieved this state of equanimity. So he has not achieved spiritual success. And because of abstinence, he's also lost the opportunity to enjoy physical pleasures, physical or whatever the desires that he had. He held back the desires so that he focuses his energies on spiritual practices. So ingiyulla angayulla is neither here nor there. This is a very, very dangerous place to be. Right? This is actually, this frustration, spiritual frustration, is the worst kind of frustration. Because if you have material frustration, you can go towards spirituality. If you get spiritual frustration, where do you go? You don't know where else to go. Because the thing that you can hold on to, that okay, Krishna is there, oh, Rama is there, my guru is there, somebody is there. If those things start failing or not working, then where is it that you go? It's a very difficult state to be in. Is what happens to such a person. Then he continues to say, Etanma samshayam Krishna chetum arhasya sheshatah. Please dispel, remove this if you can. Only you can, O Krishna. If anybody can remove this doubt, it's only you. Tadanya samshayasyasya chetana hyupapadyate. Certainly only you who can dispel this doubt in me. If anybody can. Okay. And then Bhagavan starts saying, Shri Bhagavan uvacha partha naiveha namutra vinashastasya vidyate nahi kalyana krit kaschid durgatim tata gacchati. Shri Bhagavan uvacha partha naiveha namutra vinashastasya vidyate nahi kalyana krit kaschid durgatim tata gacchati. He says, Bhagavan Krishna says, neither here nor hereafter, iha amutra, in this world or in the next world, you do not lose. Vinashastasya vidyate, na vinashastasya vidyate. You do not lose the benefits of spiritual sadhana that you have done. Nahi kalyanakrit kaschit. Never at any point, any spiritual sadhana that you have done, the effect of that, durgatim tata gacchati, it does not go away. It is never overcome by something, a non, or it is never something that you do as spiritual sadhana, which means you spend time, you spend your efforts in inner exploration, going towards contemplation. The important thing is what we do. See, in this shloka, in 37, 36, he says, upayatah, which means right means. You do the right things, O Arjuna. Right things are what? Suppose I say I do a lot of rituals. I do this puja, I do that puja, I do puja for um, uh, getting wealth, getting my child married, getting children, getting a job, getting a house, all of that. I keep doing various kinds of rituals for all of that. And if I don't get the results of that, that is not going to come forward, because those are kamya karma. Whether you do work to get money, or you sit, pray and do rituals to get money, the karma is a kamya karma. It is not a spiritual effort. It is not an effort to understand your true self. It is not an effort to connect with the divine, to get understanding. The whole process there is not for that, not towards that. The whole process is essentially to only gain, uh, to fulfill your desires. Wait a second, just give me a moment. Just 1 second. Sorry. So he says, whether in this lifetime or hereafter, whether it's in this lifetime, or which means in this world, or you drop the body and go elsewhere, this comes along with you. What? Your spiritual sadhana comes along with you. So we cannot say that I did so much of see, it's possible also. All the rituals that we do in this lifetime, next janma, we may get the benefit of those rituals also. That's possible. But we don't know how that will translate. But spiritual sadhana certainly will come through. Spiritual sadhana will certainly come through in terms of the effect of it is never disturbed or does not get altered. So if I say, if I sincerely do upayatah, if I sincerely do the right means, I sincerely do my sadhana, my prayer, my japa, my dhyana, my meditation, all of that, if I do sincerely, all of that accumulates. Accumulates for what? Accumulates to do what? Accumulates in my sukshma sharira, in my being, inner being, and it starts manifesting as my character. It starts manifesting. See, there are people who are born with a very kind heart, people who are born with a very understanding mind. How does this happen? How does this happen? This happens because somewhere they have done practices to become that. Right? So if we do enough, either in this janma or the next, the effect of this will start transforming us from within. The transformation is the key. Whether there's 5% transformation or 10% or 20%, it's always in the positive direction. For the extent of sadhana that we do, that much amount of transformation is imminent. It is certain. Right? And then he says, Prapya punya kritam lokan ushitva shashvati samaha shuchinam shrimatam gehe yoga bhrashto bhijayate. So which means, even after you die, yoga bhrashta, the one who is a yoga bhrashta, one who is incomplete in his effort of yoga, unsuccessful yogi, which means he is not able to attain that state of consciousness in this lifetime, he goes to various places, he comes back to earth, and he is born into a place where he can further his spiritual journey. एत अथवा योगिनाम एव कुले भवति धीमताम एतद्धि दुर्लभतरम लोके जन्म यदीदृशम. Or a lot of people are born, the moment they are born, they automatically get drawn to this kind of wisdom, this kind of knowledge. We have seen a lot of people who, like for example, you take the example of Dushyant Sridhar. The kind of knowledge and the wisdom and the kind of Katha Kalakshepam and Upanyasam that he does at such a young age, it's not possible because of some efforts that he has done just in this lifetime. It is certainly a lot of effort that's gone in from previous lifetimes. And this is true of any prodigy. I mean, you can take it in any field, right? Mandal Srinivas. We talk about Mandal Srinivas as a prodigy. All he does is he gets onto the stage. In fact, there's one, remember recalling this incident, he said that people are sitting there and he was playing mandolin, and then he came out after the kacheri, and they were saying, oh, na vandirundene, I had come, you smiled at me, all of that. After the kacheri, they go and exchange pleasantries with Mandolin Srinivas. And he says, I don't know, so you had come, is it? I don't remember. So basically for him, when he's on stage, he's completely absorbed in that process. And when he is doing something on the external, he is completely blank in terms of his transaction with the world. He is in a state of samadhi. He's in a certain state of samadhi with his Sangeeta. That cannot happen just in one lifetime. That level of involvement and absorption into music cannot just happen in one lifetime. Now, and that's possible just with pure talent, with pure skill, by developing skill over lifetimes. If it's possible, then what is to be said of spiritual sadhana that you do? Any amount of sadhana that we do only accumulates as something that is carried forward as a starting point for the next lifetime, as a starting point. So if you look at it that way, then this lifetime that we have received, whatever knowledge, whatever association, satsanga, knowledge, and all that we are receiving is the phala of the previous lifetime's efforts. Correct? The place where we are born, the kind of people that we are involved with, engaged with. See, a lot of people we see around don't get the right environment also. Correct? To nurture this, they don't get the right environment. So obviously we have done a lot of efforts in our previous lifetimes to be in a place today to be able to read this, to understand this, to process this, to go deeper inside, to look at ways to connect with Bhagavan, to in devotion, in dhyana. Suddenly we have a feeling, oh, let me do a puja, or let me do a chanting, let me do some kind of meditation. Where is this coming from? Why don't we feel like going and all the time partying and exhausting ourselves? Why do you want to turn inwards? Because of what we have done in the past lifetimes. You'll always see the fact that you can never do enough in this lifetime to get to where we are. Place where we are definitely would have had a few lifetimes of effort, because the effort that we have put to be in a place where we are just by the virtue that we are born in a certain place, in a certain family, with the right kind of satsanga, that in itself is not a doing of us in this lifetime. Correct? Correct? Getting up in the morning and going to the altar and putting vibhuti kumkumam itself, something that we get trained from childhood, is not something that we did in this lifetime to get that, right? It is obviously the effect of some past life karmas in that direction. So he says, Yogis who are, yogis who become yoga bhrashta, even though they come back, and they come back into families and environments which will allow them to take this further. It will help them nurture this spiritual journey further. Okay. So that is where he says till verse 42. We'll chant the next few ones now. Resume. So here he is continuing, Krishna is continuing to say, Tatra tam buddhi sanyogam labhate paurva dehikam. So he's saying, on taking such a birth, after being yoga bhrashta, after whatever he goes some different places, because his usually the sukshma sharira, when it leaves the body, it kind of moves towards its tendencies. And if we make our tendencies so strong that I close my eyes, I think about Bhagavan, I spend my day thinking about Bhagavan, I do action, I think about Bhagavan, I'm fighting with somebody, I think about Bhagavan, I'm talking sweetly to somebody, I think about Bhagavan. When I'm preparing myself slowly that way, that throughout the day I feel I am with Bhagavan, I am with my Ishta, my Guru is always there with me. I keep inculcating that, then my Sukshma Sharira, which means without my, this is the Sthula, without my Sthula, the Sukshma automatically gains the tendencies of this kind of a guna. And it will go in that direction. It will go into such places. Sorry. It will go into such places automatically, which means that is why it's said that when you do a yajna or a puja or whatever, a lot of these souls that are yoga bhrashta, they will come into those places automatically. They will get drawn. The sukshma sharira will get drawn to such places of bhakti, of dhyana, of yoga. So naturally our tendencies will move in that direction. So now what will happen when you naturally move in that direction? You will, that sukshma sharira will, the sukshma will also now wait to find a suitable environment to be reborn, because the tendencies are, it wants to nurture those tendencies furthermore. It will automatically get attracted in that direction. And what will happen when that such a person is born, then that thing in that person, either for some children or some souls when they're young, it'll be seen. ஏதோ ஒரு தெய்வீகமா இருக்கு இந்த குழந்தைகிட்டன்னு சொல்ற, they say that, or people notice something interesting, something very spiritual about the child, or some devotional element, some bhakti element, something you will notice in the child. Or as the child grows older, something will awaken in them. It may be in a slightly sushupti nila, in a sushupti state, and some environmental condition will awaken that within them. That is also possible. So here he says, because of their previous lives, yatate cha tato bhuyah samsiddho, so they will go towards perfection. What? Tatra tam buddhi sanyogam labhate paurva dehikam. In the previous lifetimes, labhate, whatever they have gathered, it will drive them towards some siddhi, towards perfection. Naturally, you will get. And the next shloka, next verse further explains this. Yes, Mama.
So, நீங்கள் சொன்ன மாதிரி அந்த suppose the sukshma shariram finds a suitable place and is reborn. Now at the sthula state, so that moment when it grows up as from a child, it may not be aware of that of that whatever thought or whatever it was. Yeah. Will there be some external thing to awaken it, or will there be a automatic self-realization that will trigger it?
Right. So what could happen? Again, there is the way grace operates is, for example, in Arunagiri Natha's story, the sister came as a guru. Now it depends on how much of that the how much of that sadhana phala is sitting there inside, and what is the trigger that is required. Both of this is very different in different people, right? How much I have gathered, I don't know, and what will trigger it also, I don't know. That is completely grace.
That awareness will not be there. Yeah.
We will not know.
Even I think ரமணரோட இதுல கூட
Correct.
வாக்குத்தர் வந்து அவர்தான் he awakens it.
He
Yeah.
comes and says Arunachala, and then it triggers that.
Yes.
So that way, correct. So that what happens, in what can trigger, we don't know, but that is the space for anugraha. That is called anugraha. Now, a lot of times what may happen is something may trigger, and if you that is why we also develop over time this possibility of being receiving. That is why they say through the sadhana be receiving, because you don't know which next event or incident or something can trigger that inside us. So we are receiving trigger. Otherwise, what happens is, if you're so caught up in the world and we don't receive and are not aware and receive, we can miss it. And we don't know when it will come again. That also we don't know when that's the beauty about anugraha. It will come and keep knocking at our door. If you are able to receive it, takkan andarthala you get the spark and it will work. If it doesn't, maybe it will take its rounds, because it's not operating in time. Right? It will keep coming.
Sharp வச்சுக்கணும்.
Number antennas sharp vechikano. Exactly. So our antennas, you have to keep. That is why sadhana, all the preparatory work that we do, karma, dhyana, bhakti, the puja, everything that we do, all of this is preparatory, because none of this can certainly take you to jnana, but all of these are required to take us to jnana. We don't know which one will take us there, but all of these are required as a preparatory step so that we become receiving, and something that will occur, that spark will hit us. Right? So here he is saying, in the same strain of thought, he's saying purva bhyasena tenaiva hriyate hyavashopi saha. So he automatically gets drawn, such a person. Purva abhyasena, because of the previous abhyasa that he has done, he gets drawn in that direction. Jignasurapi yogasya shabda brahmati vartate. He gets naturally drawn towards God, towards spirituality, towards introspection, towards dhyana, towards being a little more understanding, a little more inclusive. These ideas of being selfless, reaching out to others, all of these will slowly develop. Being kind, not harming, all of this will naturally, you will see people, right, getting drawn. எங்கேயோ பஜனை நடந்ததுன்னா போய் உட்காரணும் அப்படிங்கிற ஒரு the feeling to go and sit in a bhajana or an upanyasam. Or the Vedanta is, when you go, you build that, or you develop that ruchi to listen. You'll naturally get drawn and you'll sit there. When you see a lake or a mountain or an ocean or a sea, you'll suddenly feel like, I just want to sit and I want to do dhyana. Or you're in a forest and there is a stream, you'll feel like, I want to sit here and just meditate. All of this is why helplessly you get drawn. See, he's saying avashaha is helplessly. Hyavashopi saha, the one, he surely helplessly gets drawn towards all these things. Because why? Because he's built that kind of bank balance. right? Purvabhyasena tenaiva hriyate hyavasho api saha. Jigyasurapi yogasya shabda brahmati vartate. And then he continues to say, Prayatnadhyatamaanastu yogi samshuddhi kilbishaha aneka janma samsiddha tato yati param gatim. All of this, as he accumulates, he cleanses of all his material desires slowly, slowly, slowly. That cleansing happens. And then it's possible for him to attain to that perfection in this lifetime itself. As he goes through multiple lifetimes, he come to a certain lifetime. Now we have come to a point, we have realized that yes, we have to do this. This is important. This is urgent. This is critical. This is the only way out. So before I die, I should try to do this at whatever cost. Everything else is secondary. This is important. So that when I die, when I fall off, the dhyana, the meditation, the thought only should be of Bhagavan. Nothing else is going to. So this is what we build, because the tendency, what you're striving is to create the right tendencies of the Sukshma Sharira. Because the next birth, you don't know where you're going to go. How do you ensure? Build that right tendency so that when the body drops off, automatically when it moves in that direction, drawn by divine virtues. It gets drawn. Magnet Madri, this is the same content as divinity, only then it will get drawn. So all we can do is create the content here of the Sukshma, so that if I build anxiety, stress, worry of the future and all of that I build, it will get drawn in that direction. If I build karuna, I build love, I build devotion, I build introspection, contemplation, I build all of this shanti, then it automatically will get drawn to beautiful environment. Maybe we'll be born in some place which gives us access to the Himalayas, and we go there and sit there in dhyana, right? We don't know. Or we get drawn into an environment where there's a lot of bhakti, a lot of devotion that is there. So that is how you get drawn into tapasvi bhyo adhiko yogi. So here he is now trying to compare. He is saying tapasvi. So by comparison of tapasvi, yogi, jnani and karmi. Tapasvi bhyo adhiko yogi, jnani bhyo api mato adhikaha, karmibhyascha adhiko yogi tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. Better than an ascetic or somebody who's doing all kinds of asceticism, starving, hanging by a tree, standing on one leg, doing all of that. Greater than them, such people is a yogi. Yogi is one who's establishing himself in contemplation, in dhyana. He is also better than the yogi, is also better than a jnani, because a jnani in this context, a jnani is somebody here he is referring to as somebody who's studied the text, who's a scholar, shastravit, who's understood the text, the scriptures and all of that. He can narrate, he can, tell verses like that by heart, quote from this text, that scripture, this thing, that thing. An erudite scholar. Better than him is a yogi who can sit in one place and do dhyana, who can immediately switch off everything and then bring his consciousness to the feet of the Lord. Can we do that? Right? That is the whole endeavor. Takkanella switch off pante, we should be able to close our eyes and think of the feet of Lord, or think of the form of the Lord. Completely stay absorbed in that. Switch off everything and do that. If you're able to do that, that is the yogi he's saying is better than a jnani. And also a karmi, somebody who's doing work, working for society, working for family, working for this, doing political work, economical work, social work, this work, that work. Compared to that person, a yogi is better. Hence, O Arjuna, become yogi. Tasmad yogi bhava Arjuna. Become a yogi, O Arjuna. And then in the next verse, he talks about a bhakta. So he says, yogi nam api sarvesham, amongst all yogis, madgate Madgatena antaratmana Shraddhavan bhajate yo mam saha me yuktatamo mataha. Amongst all yogis, the one who is established in my devotion, which means what we is trying to bring here is you are not just a yogi, a dry yogi who's just established in some Brahman, which is Nirguna Brahman, but you have not become like a stone. You have not become like a rock. You have not become like a statue. There is devotion in you. There is bhakti in you. Like Ramana Maharshi is considered to be the greatest Advaitin, greatest Advaita Vedantin. But when he looks at Arunachala, he cries. And the Eeramnu Cholluvala, that must be there. That bhakti. So the one who is established, see, if you're like a yogi and I'm so fierce like a yogi, anybody comes in front of me, I'll open my eyes, I'll burn him if you disturb me. If you become like that, you're still in the formative stages. If you're a yogi of intensity, but at the same time there is devotion, bhakti, karuna, all of that in you, amongst all the yogis who are fierce yogis, this kind of a yogi, in my opinion, O Arjuna, is the greatest. Because if you lose the sight of unity, if you lose the sight of oneness, ekatvam anupashyatah, one, if you lose the sight that I want to see everything as one and everything as me, if you lose the sight of that, and if you say, I know I am Shiva, I am focusing on Shiva and everything is Shiva, 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 somebody comes here, he's disturbing me. Then you're still working through it. You're a very strong yogi. You're a very great yogi because you're now able to sit 15 hours, 17 hours dhyana of Shiva. But you've lost the texture of it is gone because the one who's coming now would be Shiva, right? Because you've created an image of Shiva and your focus is so much on that you have not been able to integrate it in your life. That integration is bhakti. When you're able to integrate your dhyana, your state of consciousness with the consciousness of the world, if you're able to bring it down and operate here, if you're able to be at the highest level, it's called as nirvikalpa samadhi. Nirvikalpa, there is no difference between the samadhi while you sit in meditation and you're in action. In both of these cases, there is no difference. When a yogi attains to nirvikalpa samadhi, he says, then there is devotion. Then you will cry out, oh Lord, you will still sing the bhajans, you will still sing songs of devotion. Such a yogi, Shraddhavan bhajate yo mam same yukta tamo mataha. Such a yogi is of great, he is the greatest yogi, is my opinion, O Arjuna. So that is what Bhagavan says in chapter 6. So let's finish this. Chandra Mama, the close point Lama. Om Tat Sad iti
Om Tat Sad iti
Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu
Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu
Upanishatsu
Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu
Upanishatsu
Upanishatsu
Brahma Vidyayam
Brahma Vidyayam
Yoga Shastre
Yoga Sastre
Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade
Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade
Atma Sanyoga Nama Shashtodhyayah
Atma Sayyama Yoga
Shashtamo
Shashtodhyayah
Shashtamodhyayah Shashtodhyayah
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 आत्मसंयमो योगो नाम
आत्मसंयमो
षष्ठोऽध्यायः।
संयमयोगो नाम आत्मसंयमो योगो नाम षष्ठोऽध्यायः।
आत्मसंयमयोगो नाम षष्ठोऽध्यायः। आत्मसंयमयोगो नाम षष्ठोऽध्यायः।
ॐ कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि। सदाशिवायेति समर्पयामि। जगदम्बिकायेति समर्पयामि। सद्गुरुनाथेति समर्पयामि। ॐ तत्सद्गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम्।